Before class, thank you for this moment. I just want to thank you for staying safe at home. I also want to thank you for studying with me. My name is Monica John. Just a reminder, because some people are joining, are joining us, those that know me and those others who don't know me. I'm Monica John, yet with another lesson, and this time we shall be talking about living things. But which kind of living things shall we talk about this time? Shall we look at plants? But before that, let's look at what we expect, are we expected of, or what at the end of this lesson, what do you think you are going to learn? What do I expect from you? One, you will be able to define living things. Two, you will be able to mention characteristics of living things. Three, you will give the kingdoms of living things. And four, you'll state the groups of plants that we have, and you'll identify the groups of plants, and you'll identify the examples of spore-bearing plants. Are we there? Yes. So let's go together and look at living things. What are living things? This is P1 work. You have ever studied it. What are living things? Living things are things that carry out life processes. Anything that is called a living thing must have carried out life processes. The processes, the life processes include excretion, respiration, excretion, and others. They respond to stimuli. All those are the processes that living things carry out. Let's continue and look at the characteristics of living things. One, they carry out reproduction. Two, they respire, they grow and feed. Add on others. Okay? Let's look at groups of living things or kingdoms of living things. Living things are grouped into 5 kingdoms. Okay? One, we have plant kingdom. 2, animal kingdom. 3, fungi kingdom. Monera, protoctista. Some of these things we looked at them in P3. So you know them, not so. So for me, you will allow me, I will concentrate more on plant kingdom this time. Okay? So plants, briefly, plants are organisms that possess chlorophyll. Are multicellular living organisms that possess chlorophyll. When I say multicellular, I mean they have many cells in them. And two, what you need to know is they have chlorophyll. So anything called a plant must have chlorophyll. Now don't get a mushroom and say, hey, a mushroom is a non-flowering plant. No, a mushroom belongs to a different group called what? Fungi. Why can't it be called a plant? Because it has no chlorophyll. Therefore, plants are grouped into 2 groups. One, flowering plants and non-flowering plants. Let's go direct and look at the non-flowering plants. What are non-flowering plants? Non-flowering plants are plants that do not bear flowers. These plants that we are talking about, the non-flowering plants, they don't bear flowers. Are we there? Even if you wait for several years, for 10 years, 20 years, they will never bear any flower. Now, my friends can ask me, now, if they don't bear flowers, how do they reproduce? We shall see that one, how they reproduce. Now, these non-flowering plants are grouped into 2 groups. Okay? We are trying to classify non-flowering plants, and these non-flowering plants are grouped into 2 types. One is spore-bearing plants. Spore-bearing plants, and then coniferous plants. Which plants are we looking at? Non-flowering plants that do not bear flowers. We said they are grouped into 2. One is, and spell it properly. Spell coniferous. Coniferous. C-O-N-I-F-E-R-O-U-S. Coniferous what? Plants. Just smile and we continue to the next point. And what are we talking about now? We're looking at spore-bearing plants. What are spore-bearing plants? These are plants that reproduce by means of spores. These are plants that reproduce by means of spores. What are the examples of spore-bearing plants? 1. Mosses, ferns, and liverworts. Let's read it together. 1. Mosses, ferns, and liverworts. Then we have others that are also there, but you can go and research and add on this list. Okay? I remind you, spore-bearing plants are plants that reproduce by means of spores. They produce spores on their leaves. They have what we call sporangium. Sporangium spores, stores spores. Spores are used for reproduction. Okay? So because they don't bear flowers, their leaves have sporangium that help in storing what? Spores that are used for reproduction. Let's continue and look at the mosses. How do they appear? How do they look? You see? The mosses, they develop on tree barks, the ground. Okay? You can find others on a wall fence, which has a lot of where there is a lot of water, where water flows. You find when the mosses has grown there. So these are mosses. They develop on barks of a tree, and you can find some of them on the wall. The moment they find a favorable condition, they just start growing from there. Okay? Let's look at others like ferns. These are ferns. Ferns like the ferns like developing on in swampy areas. Okay? When you move in a place which is swampy, you will find the ferns. And the leaves of ferns are called fronds. They are called fronds, and the fronds produce spores. Okay, you can see the leaves are the ones which produce what? Spores. You can move around your home, but don't move alone, like out of the home. Then you ask mommy to move around and show you these ferns, because this is the way they look. Okay, those are ferns. Let's look at the liverworts. How do they look? Very interesting. These ones are also are called liverworts. Okay, those are liverworts. Are we there? Yes. Now, I just want to thank you for being with me. Continue studying with us, and I ask you to follow the SOPs, standard operating procedures, standard operation procedures. Wear a mask, sanitize every time, don't hug, don't greet people using your hands. You see, avoid those things, and we shall be safe throughout the COVID lockdown. We shall be safe, and we shall not have any problem. Thank you for listening to me.